We are standing here with Wex and Cole. Yeah, we didn't need to go anywhere. It's wet outside. Just finished up with Nick Caserio, essentially the last thing from the 2025 regular season and the 2026 portion of that postseason. What did we learn? Let's have Cole go first and fill us all in on what we now know about running back Joe Mixon.
Oh, man. I mean, what don't we know? Quite a lot, actually. We still don't know how the injury occurred. We still don't know if there is going to be a possibility of him to come back next year. But Nick Caserio did say he's under contract through 2026, so if he is available, that is an option on the table. That doesn't mean that he will be returning, because you know how he likes to make these deals in the offseason, deals that could or could not happen. Right now, we don't know the long-term status of him. What we do know is that it was an injury that occurred that kept him on the NFI list throughout the entire year. Wasn't related to outside work. It was all
he said
football
he didn't do
related,
anything
which is
he
good.
shouldn't do off the field.
So
didn't do
no
anything
skydiving,
irresponsible.
no bungee jumping, no going out to ride a snowmobile in the middle of March. None of those things, but still the long-term issues that we don't know about the injury status are going to be up for debate. But Joe Mixon right now, with his status for the team, is very much in an influx, just like it was going into the year.
Last year of his deal is next year. There's very little financial ramifications on the cap. Dead cap space would be minimal if they decided to move on. Said there isn't clarity on it. Said he hasn't been around the facility, so when they get together with him, they'll have a little bit better idea of where things go. But again, no real certainty there. What D'Amico Ryans said earlier this week about Tank Dell seemed to be echoed by Nick today. Anticipation is he'd be ready for the off-season program. No telling what he'll be as a player moving forward, but clearly if health is there, that's step number one, and both agreed that's where they'd go. Thought it was interesting that he brought up the room in general. Under contract next year, Dell, Nico, Jalen Knoll, Jaden Higgins, Xavier Hutchinson into the final year of his deal. They do have a room they could move forward with. I'm sure there will be more players coming in.
Well, don't forget about Justin Watson either.
He did mention Justin Watson. I intentionally forgot about him. I'm forgetting all the catches he had this year. It's unfortunate he was hurt all year because essentially he was signed for depth in special teams and wasn't able to provide either. And then he had a concussion same week as Nico at the end of the year. Tight end position, clarity on the injuries for those that were unsure. It looked bad with Cade Stover. Nick said they probably avoided something very serious, and he should be ready this offseason to go as well. Dalton Schultz, the calf injury, again, also not something serious. His future, I would say, is a little bit like Joe Mixon's, just contractually speaking, under contract. Are you certain they'll have him back next year off of his most productive season? Well, clearly when he was off the field, he was missed.
When you talk about a guy like Owen Daniels and what he meant to the team, and bringing up Owen Daniels specifically, I thought that was a big-time deal. That, listen, they like a guy like Dalton Schultz. They know that it is a very team-friendly contract for a final year of the deal. It's a big part of the offense. And speaking of offense, whether or not we hear other people say it, Nick Caserio seems very content with Nick Caley coming on back as the offense coordinator next year, despite the rumors and speculation that, hey, just because of it sounds exactly like Bobby Slowick last season, you're not going to see a whacking at the OC spot.
Yeah, I don't understand the push for that, because it seems completely outside the building. There clearly was improvement. The team has to take on the responsibility of hiring somebody who's never done it before and be willing to say, well, we're going to be better at the end of the season, I hope, because we expect to need that improvement from our play caller. I think we could all agree that's what we saw. The play calling wasn't the issue in most of the games. They didn't play well offensively, I didn't think. I think it's fine to say they made improvement there. I think it's fine to say they made improvement on the offensive line, with recognition that both have to be significantly better next year. And to the two players that are entering their first window to have long-term contracts negotiated for both Will Anderson and for C.J. Stroud, he gave the same answer on both. We asked him more questions about C.J. What do you think about his feeling on C.J. moving forward? 3 years worth of tape, a couple of playoff games that they'd like to have back, and he was very clear C.J.'d be the first one to tell you didn't play well. I'm not going to sit here and tell you played well either. I mean, he didn't play well.
Proof is in the pudding. You have 5 turnovers in a game. You're not supposed to win. The Buffalo Bills didn't win that game. Brock Purdy with the San Francisco 49ers didn't win that game. Nick told us about those two not winning that game. It was a fantastic performance in those situations.
He's right.
He's 100% right. I thought it was really interesting, though, that when asked about picking up the fifth-year option for both those players, another one of those droll, non-negotiable kind of answers that we didn't expect, which absolutely we expected him not to be able to give us any information on.
Yeah, I think the team's in a situation where it's very clear what I would do, and I think the way Nick has operated with other players when it's time to negotiate with him. I hadn't really had this situation with any players other than Derek Stingley Jr., and I think that's exactly how you're going to operate here with Will Anderson Jr. My opinion, the sooner you lock up players you know are your future, you do that. This offseason presents for Will Anderson Jr. Totally fair to believe in questioning what the future is with CJ. It's a terrible situation because he's the quarterback when in reality he enters year 4 and he can't go anywhere else for another 4 seasons because he has his 4th year. He's at the 5th-year option. If they wanted to franchise tag him, they could do that for 2 years. Nobody wants to see that within the team or clearly the player, so that's where you have to make a decision. It's just not going to be made this offseason. The decision they're going to make, in my opinion, is he's got a contract. He's under contract. He's going to play for his 4th year, and we'll revisit this when the next offseason hits and we have even more information.
Well, the big thing is that right now, if you're going to build around C.J. Stroud, you got to build with an offensive line, and there are multiple players who are up for contracts. Well-defined, such as Ed Ingram, is up for a new deal. You have to figure out what you want to do long-term with the right tackle position with Trent Brown. You do have the 28th overall pick in the NFL draft, but Nick did say we have 8 picks now. That's destined to change, and knowing Nick Caserio, it's 1,000% going to change, whether forwards or backwards. They have a lot of questions when it comes to building around this offense, but he did say on multiple occasions they felt like that they were built to be able to win against anybody, and to an extent, he isn't wrong. You don't have a 5-turnover game in Foxborough. You find a way to at least make this thing an interesting battle. Maybe you are traveling to Denver to take on Jarrett Stidham, Sean Payton, and play for your first ever conference title appearance. 3 straight years of 10-plus wins. It's the best stretch that the Texans have had in this regime with D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio at the helm. But you reach a certain point of where you're sick and tired of having these same conversations every offseason, like stuff. Hey, divisional round playoff. Great. Where are we traveling to and where are we going to be eliminated? And what pick between 25 and 28 are we selecting that we know that we're actually not selecting at because we're going to be trading out and going into the second round? But a lot of things that need to be fixed. Contract structures need to get done. Texans enter the offseason with just under $3 million in cap space right now. There are a lot of players that currently are on the roster, apparently 55 signed, but as Nick liked to say, guess what? There are not going to be all 55 players here next year.
Yeah, this is the best roster they have had in this regime, no question about it. And I think he's right. Their team was good enough to beat anybody they went up against. Didn't happen. I think he also recognizes there are ways to make this team better. A couple of quick hitter questions, short answers. The starting right tackle for the 2026 Texans is on the roster.
Tyus Howard.
So the answer is Tytus Howard, which means they will have 2 new interior offensive linemen next year. True or false?
I believe true. One will be in the draft and one will be in free agency. Ed Ingram will be a really interesting one because of when you have a good year, you want to get paid, your agents want to get you paid. Knowing Nick Caserio, he likes to go bargain bin. So either that comes in free agency or it comes with a franchise tag, which we know is not going to happen for Ed Ingram. They are going to have 2 new interior linemen.
The top 6 defensive backs for the Texans in 2026 are already on the roster. The obvious Fantastic 4, plus Jalen Smith, Jalen Reed. True or false?
True. I do believe that they will add in a piece, either in free agency to replace what Jimmy Ward was supposed to be, or MJ Stewart, or they go draft another guy in day 3. But the priority right now, I think, is going to be focusing in on getting interior offensive linemen, getting a long-term deal set with Sheldon Rankins in place, maybe even extending Tommy Togiai to restructure some money around, even though it's like one of the best team-friendly deals in the country, and then going and adding in another running back to pair alongside with a guy in Woody Marks, who is going to be under contract next year, and it doesn't seem like that Joe Mixon, as of right now, based off the conversation, is a part of the long-term plan.
Brings me into my final question, the first running back carry of the 2026 season here at NRG Stadium in the early Monday Night Football game against the Jacksonville Jaguars will be from Woody Marks.
I believe you. My heart of hearts says, please, Nick, do everything you can to trade on up and go get All-American running back Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. Take a lot of pressure off of C.J. Stroud and have a sufficient run game. But I do agree with you. I do think that we will see Woody Marks be the first carry of 2026, wherever they play, either at NRG Stadium or I'm going to make a bet right now and say it is at Lucas Oil Stadium, Week 1, Indianapolis Colts.
Seen that before. Cole Thompson, the morning drive with Dan and Cole, each and every weekday morning, 6 to 10 a.m. on Sports Talk 790. You get me a little bit this afternoon. We get going at 2 o'clock every day on the A-Team, the Matt Thomas Show with Ross in between. Loved visiting with you all throughout the season here and obviously every day on the radio on Sports Talk 790.